everyone. It's a great pleasure to be speaking to you all today on a very interesting topic that I hold dear to my heart. And I want to say a big thank you to the organizers of this program for the privilege to speak to young adults like myself today. I'm Tosin Akintibu, and I'll be speaking to you all today on participating and achieving SDGs as an undergraduate. I'll be focusing majorly on SDG 4, quality education, for the purpose of this session. Now, I know that some of you might have heard of SDGs before, while some will just be hearing it for the first time today. That's no problem because I'll be breaking SDGs down in a way that you will easily understand. So for this session, I'll be talking about what SDGs are. Then we'll focus on SDG 4, we'll address SDG 4. Then we move to how you can get involved in SDGs as an undergraduate, and that is it. So yeah, starting with what SDGs are. What are SDGs? In full, SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Now, I call them Vision 2030 because SDGs are like a bunch of goals, 17 in number to be specific, and all these 17 goals need to be achieved by 2030. So SDGs are established by United Nations in agreement with all countries included. So the world leaders came together on September 25, 2015 to agree together on 17 goals that needs to be achieved by 2030. Now, all these goals, 17 in number, address socio, economical, political sectors of the nation, talking about poverty, education, gender equality, water, climate, and every other aspect of the country. So the main aim of SDGs is to address most pressing world challenges, and how these goals are put together, which needs me, which needs you to be involved. Everybody needs to be involved in achieving the SDGs, which I think it's very, very important to hold programs like this. These programs like this is to create awareness for SDGs, because before you as a youth of a country can get involved in something, you need to be aware that that thing exists before you can take action on being involved, right? So yeah, as I mentioned, we have 17 goals in number. We have SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 2, zero hunger, SDG 3, good health and well-being, SDG 4, quality education, which I'll be focusing on for the purpose of this session. Now, why SDG 4? According to UNICEF, Nigeria, along with two other countries, that's India and Pakistan, has the highest number of out-of-school children globally. So that's to tell you that we still have a long way to go in achieving education or access to quality education in Nigeria as a country. Now, I am going to be sharing a personal experience with you all today. But before we get to that, why SDG 4? Why quality education? Why does quality education matter? I believe that quality education is the bedrock of every other goals in the SDGs. Other SDGs emerge due to lack of education. We have poverty because there is lack of quality education. We still have problem with gender equality because of lack of education, right? We still have things like child labor, FGM, every other thing going on in the world. Some of these challenges, some of these problems are due to lack of education. Now, imagine us addressing the root of the problem, addressing this education. That means all the other goals in the SDGs can easily be achieved, right? So that is why quality education is very, very important. Now, this is not to say that every other goals in the SDGs are not important, but SDGs is one of the most important SDGs. Now, like I mentioned earlier, that I'm going to be sharing a personal experience with you all. So personally, SDG 4, quality education is my favorite SDG because of a personal encounter or personal experience that I had in 2019. Yes, if I recall correctly, 2019. So when I was in year 2 in OAU, I'm a graduate of OAU, by the way. So in year 2, we do go for CiAY. So I went for CiAY in Oshobo. And I happened to meet this little girl. She is 12 years old as at then. So I got to have a conversation with her, and she told me that she has never been in school. She shared her experience about always looking out the window when she sees students going to school every morning, and she envies them and wish to be one of them. Out of curiosity, I asked her, why don't you go to school? She told me that her parents do not see the need. I mean, it's not really important to go to school. Now, this might sound unreal, but it's the reality of things. We still have parents in that category. There are still several factors why some children are not in school today. I mean, you will believe that in this generation, everybody is well informed that education is very important, right? For everyone. But it's I won't say funny right now. I would just say it's surprising that we still have parents, we still have children not having access to education due to one reason or the other. And this is why we have SDGs to address these root problems, right? So I have during my time during the break during the COS period when I was with this little girl, I did my home part, to teach her some basics in math and English. And fortunately enough, it was during this period that I also get to know about SDGs. It was my first time. I saw this program online for youths, just like this program. So the program was focused on youths, and then the main purpose is to create awareness about what SDGs are. And I was fortunate enough to be a participant of that program. So we're taught 17 goals, and then we're asked to pick a favorite and act on it, because that's the most important thing. After you are aware, you need to act. So as I'll be speaking to you today, I want you to have this question at the back of your mind. How do I get involved? Now you are getting to know about SDGs. That's the first step. But now, after getting to know it, do I just want to get to know it as adding it to my knowledge bank? Or do I actually want to do something, want to make the world a better place? Because change starts with me and you. And to achieve this SDG as a country, we need to be involved as an individual, as a family, as a society, as a student. All together, we need to come together to contribute our part, to contribute our quota into achieving all these goals. Now, following up on the story I shared with you all earlier, meeting this girl and also getting to know about SDGs then, and also the charge that we were given to act on our favorite SDG. All this spurred an interest in me that when I was doing my CIAY and went back to school, I had to reach out to like a couple of my friends that were also my schoolmates then, that I know that they are the kind of people that are interested in volunteering and doing humanitarian projects. So we started an organization called CiAY, that's Changemakers Youth Empowerment Initiative. So the motivation I got, I mean, for meeting this girl and her, via that organization, we were able to launch lots of programs. We reached out to primary and secondary schools to teach them, to mentor them. We had virtual career programs for university students, went to charity homes and all. So why am I sharing all these things? Because SDGs is beyond just being aware. It's beyond you just knowing that this thing exists or we need to do this thing. It's more of you acting. It's more of you taking part. When I wanted to talk to you about this topic, I said the topic is participating and achieving SDGs as a Nigerian undergraduate. So you as a person, you as a Nigerian, you as a citizen, you as an individual, how are you contributing to the community? How are you giving back to the society? So it's more of acting. The first step is knowing, like I said, and then the next step, which is the most important rather, is to act on these things. Now, SDG goal 4 is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong opportunities for all. And the aim of SDG 4 is to ensure that everyone, women, men, children, adults, have access to quality education. Now, SDG 4 is broken down into 10 targets. We have 7 outcome targets and 3 means of implementation. Now, before I start addressing each of these targets, I'm going to be categorizing them into three. One, accessibility. Two, equity. Three, quality. Now, accessibility. We need to ensure access to lifelong learning opportunities right from early childhood to adult education. Now, thinking about the little girl I used in my story, what's the access level of her to quality education? Does she really have access to quality education? Are there some certain factors restricting her from having access to quality education? Now, these factors might not just be parents in this case. It could be infrastructure. It could be establishment of schools, even in our environment. Now, two, equity. Ensure equity, inclusion, and gender equality. This means we need everyone, irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their age, their race, their ethnicity, their background, including people living with disabilities, need to have access to quality education. Now, the third one, which is quality, which is very, very important because it goes beyond just learning, right? You need to have access to quality learning resources. Make sure that whatever you get to learn, either as a child, primary school, in secondary school, in tertiary institution, adult education, everything you are learning is relevant in terms of vocational, technical, or entrepreneurship skills. Because whatever you get to learn needs to be relevant. Now, most of us that are university, most of us here are undergraduates, right? How relevant is your course of study to the outside world when you are done? Can you apply it? The skills, the knowledge you are acquiring right now, can you apply it to real world challenges, to real life problems? Right? So this is one of the things that SDG 4 need to address. Now, I mentioned earlier that SDG 4 is broken down into 10. We have 7 outcome targets and 3 means of implementation. Now, I'm going to be addressing them one after the other. Target 1, universal primary and secondary education. Now, this target is that by 2030, boys and girls need to have access to free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary education, which I will also relate with the girl in my story. She is one of those children that needs to have access to free, equitable, and quality education, considering primary and secondary education. So by 2030, we need to make sure that children like her have access to free, equitable, and quality education. So how far have we gone as a nation to provide free primary and secondary education? Now, target 2, early childhood development and universal pre-primary education. Now, by 2030, boys and girls also need to have access to pre-primary education. So they need to have so you can consider this as all this, now in Nigeria as a case study, you can consider this as the KG and nursery phase. So you need to have quality education, the kind of learning that will prepare them ahead of primary education. Target 3, we have equal access to technical, vocational, and higher education. Now, by 2030, we want to ensure that both men and women have access to technical skills that are relevant, vocational skills, or higher education like university. In your case as an undergraduate, do you have access to tertiary education? Now, this includes technical, vocational, and also tertiary education, including university. So by 2030, we want to make sure that everybody, both men and women, regardless of your background, regardless of your financial status, have access to these skills. Now, target 4, relevant skills for decent work. You know, the main importance of learning, either going to school or learning a technical skill or learning a vocational skill, even right from the pre-primary, primary, secondary education, the whole point of all these things is to gain skills that will be relevant either to work in the corporate space after you are done with the whole school cycle, or probably to run entrepreneurship, to establish a business and all. So the main target for target 4, the main point for target 4 is to make sure that all the skills you're acquiring all through these phases are relevant enough. And this goes beyond just acquiring art skills. We need to consider soft skills that are even necessary for you to survive as an individual, to address challenges. There are soft skills that are necessary for you as an individual, wherever you find yourself, either you're working for someone in a company, either you establish a business you are running for yourself, or you are doing a vocational skill that you are running as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. So we have soft skills like creativity, problem solving, communication skills, emotional intelligence, teamwork, communication, like I mentioned. All these soft skills are necessary for you as an individual, and it is essential that young adults, women, men, boys, and girls are able to get all these skills. So we're ensuring that by 2030, all these relevant skills are acquirable, achievable by everyone, regardless of their status. Now, target 5, gender equality and inclusion. By 2030, we want to ensure boys and girls, men and women have access to pre-primary, primary education, secondary education, vocational, technical, tertiary institution. All relevant skills have access to it, regardless of where you are from, either children from vulnerable communities, children living with disabilities, regardless of your ethnicity, your language, your ethnicity, your color, your age, your race, regardless of your background, you have access to free, equitable, and quality education. Target 6, universal youth literacy. This is to, by 2030, this is to ensure that a very significant number of youths and a considerable portion of adults have achieved a certain level of literacy and numeracy, which are very basic. They are the basic level of education. Now, target 7, education for sustainable development and global citizenship. This is to ensure that by 2030, everyone have access to the kind of education and learning required to survive as an individual, to address global challenges. Now, moving on from the 7 outcome targets to the 3 means of implementation. We have effective learning environment, we have scholarships, and then we have teachers and educators. Now, effective learning environment is very important because the environment where you have these classes, you are passing the knowledge to the people that will get it is very important. Look at the state of schools in Nigeria today. Are they conducive enough for people living with disabilities? Are they conducive enough for gender sensitive people? Are they conducive enough for people living with disabilities? So regardless of your financial status, regardless of your background, regardless of anything whatsoever, you have access to education. So we have to make sure that some of the schools in Nigeria that needs probably rebuilding or providing necessities, providing tools and equipment. It could be computers that need to aid effective learning for the students, conducive enough to accommodate them and pass the necessary knowledge. And then another means of implementation is scholarships, which I think we have a good number of them right now. We have scholarships from from developed countries. I mean, so developing countries like Nigeria that you can leverage to get access to education in the developed countries. And then 3, we have teachers and educators, which is very, very paramount. Teachers are key to achieving all the SDG targets that we talked about earlier, all the 7 outcome targets that we talked about earlier. Why? Because teachers are the drivers. I see teachers as the drivers. They're the one holding the steering, right? While the students are the passengers. If the teacher decides to take the students to Lagos, it's not possible you end up in Abuja or you end up in Oyo State. So which means we need to be able to invest in teacher trainings, right? Teachers need to be motivated enough, provided with the resources that they need to pass the right information to students. Because what they are the key to achieving all the SDG targets, and we need to make sure that we have qualified teachers passing this information to students. Now, finally, like I mentioned when I started this session, I said you should have it at the back of your mind that now that you are getting to know about what SDGs are, how do you want to be involved as an undergraduate, as a Nigerian, as an individual? How do you want to get involved in SDGs? Now, there are several ways you can be involved as a Nigerian undergraduate. 1, taking part in communities, joining communities. There are several, taking OU as an example now, we have several organizations on campus, like we have ISEC, we have CiAY, we have Red Cross, we have TEDx, and so many of them. If we do not have this kind of information, you can easily ask your friends or probably put it on your WhatsApp status, and you'll be surprised that this organization exists in most schools. Actually, this kind of organization exists in most schools, and these organizations are also would I call them living witness to executing the SDG goals. So you've been taking part, joining these organizations will give you the opportunity to actively participate in projects. You know, there is a particular saying in JCI, because I was in JC when I was in school, humanity is the best work of life. And that's the truth. You're taking part in all these kind of projects that are established to train women, to train men, to train boys and girls. You know, there was a time we had a project, this FGM. You'll be surprised that many people, many of our parents in a particular town, if as an example, then that we had the FGM program, do not even know that right now female genital mutilation should not be going on. And that is why we have communities like this, we have organizations like this that can organize this kind of orientations, right? You can organize this kind of orientation, organize programs that will be beneficial for everyone, for every individual. Now, aside joining organizations and communities on campus, you can volunteer to teach and mentor younger students in your environment, probably close to your school, close to where you live. Volunteer to teach them. So you don't have to, when I shared my own aspect of acting on SDGs about establishing an organization that I ran for a couple of years working with my friends, you do not need to go to that extent, trust me, because they mentioned something that little drops of water makes an ocean, right? So you do not have to go all loud. Everyone doesn't have to establish NGO before they take part in SDGs. You trying to help the students around in your community is a way of you participating in SDG. Can volunteer to teach them, to train them, mentor them about where they are right now, how to be prepared for secondary education based on their level, the level of the student you are teaching, or getting prepared for university or life after school. Now, aside from volunteering, you can actively participate in campaigns that promote a better educational policies. We have some of these campaigns run by organizations. You can come across them on IG, you can come across them on Twitter, or be an active participant of campaigns like that. And then you can also donate to charity. You can decide to go solo or just go with, many of us have all this girls group, boys group kind of thing. Just talk to your friends. Gather a little that you can get, or just get some items from your friends that you can easily just get and donate to this charity organization to be very, very useful for them. Now, the final thoughts that I'll be leaving with you is that SDG cannot be achieved by just one person. It needs me, it needs you to be involved. I implore everybody to contribute their quota into achieving all these goals. So pick yourself up now that you know what SDGs are, you know what you need to do now, you know the different ways that you can get involved. Now, I will leave you with one thought. Now that you know what SDGs are, how can you as a person get involved? That is an assignment that I'm giving to you, even though I will not be getting reports directly, but I want to believe that everybody here today that have listened to me have been encouraged to be part of SDG. Another way that you can also be part of SDGs that I forgot to mention is promoting online learning. You can acquire skills outside of your course of study. You are not limited to the course you are studying in school. I studied zoology as an undergraduate. I'm currently working as a product manager. There is no correlation. That is the power of online learning. We have many platforms like we have Coursera, we have Udemy, and several other learning platforms that you can get learning resources from. If we have free courses. Even YouTube is there. YouTube is there for you. Google is there for you. Coursera, you might feel like, oh, maybe you do not have money to take courses on Coursera. There's financial aid which you can leverage as a student. I think you can even create Coursera account as a student, and you have access to a 1-year free learning resources. So all these kind of online resources, you can have access to it. Establish a skill for yourself, but by the time you are done with you with your undergraduate studies, you are not just starting to think that, oh, how do I get involved? Oh, no, that I'm done. I need to have a job. I need to do this. I need to do that. How prepared are you during your time in school? Have you taken your time to take an online course? It could be relating to your course of study, and it might not be. Just in my own case, have you been able to be actively involved in organization and communities in campus? Because even you being part of all these communities on campus does not it doesn't just revolve around you probably contributing your quota. You get to learn a lot. You get to work with people. That's teamwork. I mentioned soft skills the other time. That's teamwork. You get to bring out your creativity side, because now you have to establish projects, and you might even get involved in you might get the chance that they will ask you to manage a particular project. That's leadership. You can acquire most of these soft skills by actively participating in organizations and community as a student, as an undergraduate. Now couple it with you taking an extra step in leveraging online courses, and also preaching the same message, the same gospel to your friends. Spread the message that you do not have, because I'm so to me I there was a time that I thought that everybody knew about online courses, online learning. But then when year by year, as I get to meet many people, I'm surprised that many people actually have no knowledge. They don't know anything about the baby Coursera exists, or Udemy courses exist, or the fact that they can actually self-taught, self-learn something and establish themselves and establish a career for themselves, or work for organizations or communities after learning these skills. So now that you know, please work on it and pass the message to your friends. I believe that you've learned a lot from this session today. Please, if you've jotted some things down, do not leave it inside your jotter. Act on it. Thank you.